who should be an entrepreneur versus who shouldn't be an entrepreneur?
Okay, there's a lot there to unpack. I'll try to go through it in a systemic way. Entrepreneurship has become too trendy. It's become too cool. Only 3% of the world, is my belief, really have the DNA traits, the actual entrepreneurial traits to be an entrepreneur. Then there's lots of skills that you can have to be an entrepreneur, that you need to be to build a company.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being entrepreneurial. So being an entrepreneurial is finding something, like maybe you're a plumber or a copywriter or a journalist, and you can do that job for lots of companies. That's being entrepreneurial, not going to one place to get your paycheck 40 hours a week, but having lots of people paying you.
Mm-hmm.
Being an entrepreneur is building a company and people and systems that can actually scale for you to give you the freedom, right, the time and the money and the feeling of accomplishment that now something is actually doing it for me. So when you can make money in your sleep because your team is running it, your systems are running it, you're hitting some kind of a scale, that's what being an entrepreneur is.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the DNA traits, and these are going to be really weird ones to hear, most entrepreneurs are bipolar. Most entrepreneurs have attention deficit disorder.
Completely.
And most entrepreneurs are strong leadership and sales. So most entrepreneurs are very salesy, meaning they can sell themselves, they can sell other people on joining them, they can sell a banker or investors and putting their money in, they can sell people at quitting their jobs and coming and joining you, they can sell people on the team on driving towards a goal or working hard or working overtime. We have to be good at sales.
Mm-hmm. So natural charisma.
That charisma and that sales of, as I tell my two boys, one who already runs his own business at 21, who I really want to spend some time with you, by the way.
Go golf.
Well, he wants to come and do masterminds and do cool shit. He's already running his own business in Montreal. So I tell my two boys that no only means no in the bedroom. and every right, but it's true. But
that's a new one.
But
I like that one.
But every salesperson knows that, right? If a salesperson hears no, it just means I didn't explain myself. But if a marketer hears sales, they get all panicky and they run away. A true natural salesperson never gives up until we're told, like, F off, get the hell off my property.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I still didn't explain myself.
Yeah.
But no does mean no in the bedroom. But so number one, you got to be really good at sales. That's a DNA trait.
Yeah.
Lots of people are not good at sales. The other one is leadership. The ability to lead yourself, to lead others. And leadership traits are noticed in people at very young ages.
Mm.
You were probably leading the other kids. You were probably the ones to get the kids to go off and play the sports. You were getting the kids to do all the cool stuff. You were the one who was kind of misbehaving in class. You were the class clown, or the teacher's like, pay attention and stop distracting.
And I was always asking
that's leadership.
Why. And I was always asking why. Why do we have to do it this way? Why do we have to do it this way? And I was bucking against the norm. I was bucking against
You're pushing
conformity
a system, right?
From the very beginning, because the system just existed because the system existed.
And you knew that at a very young age. That's a DNA trait. Okay, you can't teach that. You can, but it's a DNA trait. The ADD, the school system and the medical system have said that attention deficit is a disorder. For an entrepreneur, it's one of the biggest skills.
Superpower.
Because it allows us to see everything. We see what's happening with the time, the market, the economy, our customers, our employees. We notice metrics out of place. We see trends. We hear things. We notice habits. We just see it all. And it becomes so overwhelming because we're seeing it all that we have to delegate to get some stuff off our plate.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're so myopically focused, like an engineer or a doctor or an accountant, that doesn't necessarily allow you to scale something up. You miss all of the other things because you're so hyper-focused, right? And then the last one is bipolar. Most entrepreneurs who are tested that are true entrepreneurs are on the scale for bipolar disorder to 9, 10, or 11 of the 11 traits. I have 11 for 11. I have 17 of the 18 signs of attention deficit disorder, clinically diagnosed, both. Bipolar, the reason that bipolar is a strength for entrepreneurs, the mania is why people follow us. It's why they quit their jobs. It's why they invest. It's that gregarious, crazy energy and optimism. That's mania.
Mm-hmm.
It's that uninformed optimism. The stress and depression is simply us course correcting because we can't tell people what's really happening. We can't tell people we're almost bankrupt, or we don't have enough money coming in, or we have no idea how we're going to hit these crazy goals, or come and join me, but I'm not sure if I can meet payroll yet, but come and work for me anyway because I'm sure we're going to figure it out. Or I'm not even paying myself yet, but I'm on social media showing how great my business is. That's the stress and depression, is kind of the compounding effects that it has on us, which is why entrepreneurs need to take time away from the business to decompress, We need to spend time in masterminds with other entrepreneurs outside of our industry to be open and vulnerable with people who get it and have been there, because we can't tell our team or our employees or shareholders or the market of all the things that are scaring us and stressful. But it's
so hard.
Right. And I'm not saying that these are, and I'm not making light of either of them. One of my sons was clinically diagnosed with bipolar, was medicated and hospitalized for a little bit on a hypomanic episode. But most entrepreneurs are on the spectrum for those. Those are the 4 DNA traits. Then we have skills that you need to be an entrepreneur, which I can speak to if you want to, but those are different.
So that's going to be my follow-up question is, how much of entrepreneurship is nature versus nurture? Because there's this Peter Thiel quote that I love so much, which is, he goes, nobody's purely born an entrepreneur. You need to be molded into an entrepreneur. You need to work on it. So you even mentioned leadership, for example. And up until very recently, I've very much so bucked against leadership. Like, I love being the ideas guy of creating the vision for where the company is going. But I was like, man, I do not want to be in these meetings. I don't want to be telling people what to do.
That's management.
Yeah.
Leadership is different from management. Leadership is selling vision, showing culture, showing up with charisma and energy, right? That energy, that momentum, creating momentum. Management is ensuring that people are doing the things that need to be done, following up on details.
I'd rather die.
Right. And that's a COO role. That's the role of a second in command. That's the integrator versus a visionary. But don't confuse the difference between leadership and management.
So how would you define, if somebody's listening to this right now and they say, okay, I just heard what Cameron said about leadership. How can I know that I'm a leader? Because sometimes people just don't have a frame of reference to actually know.
Leadership, again, is going back and looking at all the things you were doing at a very young age. Like, I was the top scout, the top cub, coaching a little ski team, running all these little businesses, captain of a team at school. I was on student council. I was on the sports council. Like, I was doing
perpetual overachiever.
Well, no, I was an underachiever. I was getting 65% on all my tests and exams. I was poor as a student, but I was always leading all the other kids, leading all the other students, right? I was the one who would corral all the groups to go and do some cool stuff. That was leadership. But I wasn't very good at the scholastic side of the business. All of my friends were the really smart 95% students. But they all were at my home doing stuff. They were at my parties doing stuff, right? I was hiring all my friends when I was 20. I had 12 employees.
Is there data on that? Is there data? I feel like I saw some data about where the valedictorians and the ones that did the best in
often
school
work for the C players. Yeah. There's lots of data around that. Yeah.
Wow.
The difference nowadays is there's a lot of tech entrepreneurs, but they tend to be good at the tech stack. They're good at selling vision, and then they're good at hiring people who can actually execute on the company. It's that 2-in-a-box model. Most entrepreneurs, I had a discussion. Do you know Guy Raz, who has the show How I Built This?
Oh, I know the show. Yeah.
So Guy and I have hung out at the TED conference for years. And I asked him one day, I said, all these amazing entrepreneurs that you're talking about on How I Built This, Kendra Scott, who's from Austin, Brian Scudamore. I've known them since they were very, very early stage. I knew Kendra when she was $2 million in revenue. Now she, is a billionaire and has a G5.
Yep.
Kendra had a second in command, Lon. Lon built the company to execute on her vision. Most successful entrepreneurs have a second in command. They have the person to make the business happen, to put the systems in place. Sadly, most entrepreneurs grow their skills and they're like a duck flying around in a circle. A duck has to grow both wings. You got to grow the second in command skills, grow the skills of your leadership team, and grow yours. Sadly, a lot of entrepreneurs also think they have to be good at everything because the school system said, get a tutor and get better at your weaknesses. Delegate your weaknesses. Hire people to do your weaknesses. When I was 21, third year university, I hired someone to do all my accounting assignments. I paid him in beer. I was running a bar, traded him in beer. Every week, I kid you not, Monday night, the accounting assignment would show up under my door. I would slip it under the professor's door the next day. And I did very well on all my assignments. The night before my final, I was talking to my dad and I said, Dad, I'm totally going to fail the final tomorrow. He goes, why? And I told him the story and he started laughing. He said, what do you want to do when you graduate? I said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. He said, what have you learned from hiring someone to do all your accounting assignments? And I said that I don't know accounting. He said, no, you learned how to hire an accountant. And that's a real special skill.
Yeah.
Is how do you hire someone to do the stuff you're weak at? But the school system said, no, you're a failure at accounting. I make more than all of my university professors combined. And 15 years later, I was the expert on chapter 7 of the accounting textbook used by all accounting students in Canada on budgeting. And I told the author that I cheated in the course. She goes, it doesn't matter. I still need to use you as the expert on budgeting. So I knew how to hire an expert, right?
And it's
But
funny.
those are skills.
Yeah.
You need to learn that stuff.
I'm curious if you have any. I'm sure you have 100 of these because I have 100 of these myself. Where you meet the guy or you meet the girl that you've been idolizing, you've been looking up to, and you're like, you must be special. There's something about you. You're a billionaire. You know, you're this top author. You're this top person, and you meet them all, and you go, I mean, yeah, you're great, but you're not like exceptional.
Do you know what's interesting for me is I've never looked at entrepreneurs at any level of with that kind of, oh my gosh, you must be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was because I grew up in a family of entrepreneurs and it was demystified for me at a very early age. So when I was 15, I could have told you all the people that owned all the car dealerships in the city I grew up in, all the people that owned the clothing stores. So I knew all these entrepreneurs. So there was nothing mystical about them. They were just friends of my parents. There was nothing cool. The people that I was amazed with, like I was in awe of, were the goalies in the NHL and the national ski team members who raced downhill. Those were like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And they did have something special, man. Like I got to ski around a couple of those and they're just demigods.
Yeah.
But business people, they didn't really ever get me because I think it's just, again, a DNA trait with a lot of work, a lot of hard work.
It's funny that you say that because a quote that I love is you only grow to what you're exposed to. And so from when you're saying that, from the very beginning, you had that benefit of being just exposed to new levels. And then now it's an example of this is I was at a mastermind event and this gentleman was talking about his $1 million pool. And I just never, like, I'm buying $1 million companies. I never thought about buying $1 million pool.
Well, do you know where the concept comes from? It comes from one of the Beatles said, what are we going to write? What song are we going to write that's going to allow us to build that pool? Yeah. And that became the $1 million pool, was the $1 million songs. Like, what's the one singular focus thing you're going to have that's going to create that big thing? It was one of the Beatles that talked about the $1 million pool. Yeah. So you and I are doing something very similar. We're putting ourselves in a room where we're not the smart people anymore.
That's wonderful.
Isn't it? Like, fuck, I walk out.
People say, how are you not cocky? Easily.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the wrong room.
There's also I talked to my son about this too. There's a very fine line between confidence and cockiness. And the idea is, how do you get yourself very close to cocky and bring it back 5%? Because if you're over the line, you'll never be successful.
You know what my favorite definition of cockiness over confidence is? Noise. That's the only difference. Yeah. It's because the confident person, the cocky person can both be equally like amazing at something. And the only difference is the cocky person has to go tell everybody about it.
Well, you can still tell everybody when you're confident, but I think the confidence is also you've been beat up a few times and then you realize like we are just humans. We're all going to die too. Like
and
none of us are getting this. And none of this shit really matters in the first place. So then keep that confidence right at that level. One of the core skills of an entrepreneur is the ability to protect their own confidence. Because we get beat up, because we're told no, because we're hitting all these failure points. So it's, how do you state shift? How do you actually protect your confidence on a daily basis? How do you build yourself up to be able to go, okay, let's go do this again? Because you're getting hit from every single direction and we're not reporting to anybody in our company who's going, good job. No one's giving us praise. So we have to be able to find that praise within ourselves. It's a very, very big skill for an entrepreneur to protect their own confidence.
Question on that. Is confidence more important or is courage more important? Because I'm taking this one from Layla Hormozi, who you had on your podcast.
Client of mine.
Yeah. So Layla said, confidence comes from the repeated taking of actions. Like you said, you build confidence from the doing of the thing. But there's a person that's listening to this or watching this that hasn't yet done the thing. And so they can't have confidence out of thin air to do the thing if they haven't done it before. So you have courage to do it. So courage is a decision to begin. And then once you begin, that's where you get the reps in to build the confidence. So.
Yeah, I think it's both. Again, because you can go back and draw on the courage from other things that you've done to get here.
So a body of evidence outside of what you've already done, but where you've had excellence in other areas of your life.
Like, again, if you're going to start your own company saying, oh my God, I don't know how to lead people. You were probably leading people when you were 20. What did you learn? So it's going back and re-examining all the jobs you've ever had, all the roles you've ever been in, re-examine your life and what did you do well and what did you not do well? What were the lessons? What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? And re-examining that, coaching yourself or getting somebody to help you figure that stuff out so that then all of a sudden you can draw on that confidence. I remember this is again going back 30 years ago. I was just leaving a private currency company that we built and sold, took the company public, sold for $64 million in 2000. And I was really broken apart. I wasn't sure what I was going to do for the next stage of my career. And I sat down with a group of entrepreneurs and I had them tell me all the things I was good at that I'd forgotten about. And one of them was like, oh, you're really good at franchising. I'm like, really? Like, I just did house painting. They were, yeah, but you also did auto body and look what you did in house painting. And I needed other people to show me the stuff that I was good at to get my confidence layer back up again so that I could then go about it again. So I kind of agree with where Layla's going with that. But I think we can all go back and re-examine our lives to give us the confidence to then have the courage to do the next thing, which gives us confidence. With managers and leaders, I always say it's like they're climbing up two ladders. One ladder is skills, one ladder is confidence. And our job is to grow people's skills and grow their confidence and grow their skills and grow their confidence. Similar to what she's talking about with the courage and confidence.
I love that. Let's talk quickly about, to kind of circle back.
And just on Layla Hormozi for a second too. These are people are looking up to Layla and Alex and going, oh my God, they're incredible. Do you know how much they've spent time learning as well? Yep. They came to an event that I ran 7 years ago about building a company, world-class culture, and they were there sitting in the room learning, right? Everybody is always learning. So don't think that somebody out there who's hyper successful, Dan Martell, who you know, Dan is like a big thought leader right now. I've known Dan for 15 years. Dan attends masterminds to learn. The best of the best have coaches still. The best athletes have coaches. So I think for anybody who's starting their own business, don't kind of aspire to be somebody who's figured it out. Those people are still growing too. Every day, the best are still trying to get better.
10-year overnight success.
Yeah, right? It takes a long time to get the night before.
Yeah.